Hello, dear friends. Silence is power. The soul's journey begins by embracing solitude and silence as a way of knowing oneself. Enjoy the silence while an economic revolution takes place. Flies don't enter a closed mouth. Opinion piece. Silent reset. Secret protocols. Silence is power. Economic theater. Covert operations. Things feel strange. Everything is ready. Avoiding media panic. Monetary stabilization. Crimson Mist operation. Tariffs serve as a facade. There is no warning siren. There will be no sudden collapse. Nothing can stop it from happening. The flood doesn't begin with thunders. It's not war, but an accounting maneuver. Let's start. A secret operation called Silent Reset is part of a worldwide plan to change the financial system and reorder global power. A massive transition is being prepared that will affect banks and currencies around the world, with the intention of creating a new financial system. It is a discrete reset or change in the financial situation, without any flashy or surprising public changes. This top-tier classified financial operation is quietly injecting $500 billion into the global economy under the cloak of tariffs. No headlines, no warnings, just the silent activation of pent-up wealth, designed for humanitarian deployment and systemic reset. It's called Silent Reset Operation, according to media greed. On the other hand, there are declassified memos from Crimson Fog Operation, documents that show intelligence officials planning behavioral influence operations in real time through social media, using AI-controlled scripts during the riots. Silence. There is a reason the media has been silent, a reason the big figures aren't speaking out. One reason: things feel strange. In the gut, in the energy, in the headlines that don't correspond to the reality around us. While people wait for a signal, those paying attention know it's already begun. Simply put, everything is ready. The infrastructure is in place. The signal routes are verified. The transmission content is protected by backed up in 6 hardened locations. There will be no headlines, no push notifications, no economic alerts circulating through global markets. However, behind that silence, something strategic has begun to circulate, not out loud, not virally, but with the precise composition of a classified report leaked to the international press. It doesn't read as hype, but as intention, not as a speculation, but as confirmation that a readjustment of the global financial axis is already underway. This message, devoid of signatures, unbranded and discreet by design. It's not a manifesto, a recruiting tool, or the work of a content creator. It is the product of someone close to the engine room of global financial engineering, someone who understands both the architecture of silence and the speed of time. And what they conveyed is not explosive, but it is detonating in its implications. Accounting maneuver. This is not about war, but about relocating wealth. The world is not preparing for a military confrontation. What we are witnessing is not an arms race, but an accounting maneuver. The tariffs presented as retaliatory trade measures appear to be calculated economic veils, intended to provide a political and legal justification for the sudden and seamless reintroduction of quarantined capital into the global system. More than $500 billion in blocked, suppressed, or hidden assets are being mobilized, but not randomly. They are being reintroduced through mechanisms designed for transparency, structured to withstand audits, be explainable to the public, and above all, avoid generating panic or speculation. In essence, the world is being given the optical illusion of economic victory through trade reform, while a suppressed planetary wealth structure is quietly being activated behind the scenes. Custodians. The financial shift described above is not being orchestrated by governments, nor is it being channeled through conventional central banks or supranational institutions. Capital is in the hands of designated custodians, individuals or legal entities embedded in the system who have no property rights over the funds they are meant to protect. These custodians are visible to legal frameworks and the regulatory bodies, but are protected from misuse by design. It is a decentralized control architecture designed to eliminate corruption and manipulation. Distribution. The proposed distribution model is as elegant as it is deliberate. 80% of the funds are allocated to humanitarian infrastructure, not charity, but to systems specifically designed for restoration and development. 1% is set aside as a logistics fee, the operational cost of maintaining discretion and function. The remaining 19% is allocated to treasury bonds, anchoring the inflow of capital to a sovereign debt structure that maintains balance and prevents destabilization. This is not redistribution, but a structural reform of capital flows on a planetary scale. Invisible fight. The message doesn't call it war, but what it describes is a form of financial struggle, carried out with surgical precision and wrapped in layers of plausible deniability. There are no rolling tanks, no collapsing currencies, no institutional defaults. What's happening is much more calculated and an artificial justification for the emergence of a wealth structure previously considered too explosive to reveal. Tariffs serve as a window dressing. They provide governments with an easily digestible narrative, while quietly funneling assets through hidden repayment channels. This is a coordinated act of economic theater, designed to buy time, maintain appearances, and gloss over a radical shift in global wealth in the eyes of a population accustomed to seeing crisis only in the headlines. Reset. Realignment won't be called a reset, but that's what it is. It will never be called rebalancing, but we will hear terms like liquidity optimization, monetary stabilization, or currency flow alignment. But it is the discrete execution of a sovereign debt rebalancing, carried out in a way that avoids media panic, market turbulence, and social unrest. The truth is that the reset is already happening. The mechanism has begun, and the only question is whether the public will be allowed to understand what is happening, or whether the entire operation will be tailored to a narrative of economic resilience. What we are witnessing is not a change in economic strategy. It is the recovery of stolen time, value, and potential. It is a restructuring designed to reverse decades of plunder without admitting that the theft occurred. Softness. The flood does not begin with thunders, but with numbers. It may not be the storm people have been expecting, strong, sudden, and catastrophic. There will be no coordinated media offensive. There will be no sudden collapse. There will be no massive declassification. Instead, the flood begins on balance sheets. It begins with the shifting of zeros, the silent creation of liquidity, the realignment of frozen flows. It is about reclaiming what was hidden, packaged in a new framework, and presented to a world too distracted to ask the right questions. There is no warning siren. There is only movement, and it has already begun. Revolution. According to Glenn Beck, for more than a decade, Davos sold the illusion of inevitability. The world must centralize. Nations must disappear. Sovereignty must fade. And unelected bodies would dictate the future. Their message was simple: obey, comply, and surrender. They masked it with sustainability, equity, and meteorological justice. But beneath the image lurked a contempt for freedom. Then came the American response. This is the Great Reset of the Great Reset. Not a superficial makeover, but a counterattack. The Davos reset meant submission. The coalition reset means rebirth. It's sovereignty instead of global dominance, real production instead of controlled decline, earned value instead of digital scoring systems. It's a blow, not an adjustment. The globalists wanted centralized control, the clash of industries, and the population conditioned by endless cycles of fear. But the script was changed. Bring industry back home. Rebuild energy dominance. Ensure fair trade. Resist digital currencies. And restore monetary sovereignty. This is no longer politics. It is a cultural, economic, and psychological struggle. Davos failed. What emerges now is stronger, freer, and unapologetic. This is the revolution, and this time we are fighting to win. Incursions. According to Ezra Cohen, the mission is accelerating more forcefully than before. In August 2025, the global operation is underway. This is just the beginning. The reckoning is underway, and tactical units are working around the clock. The codes are overwhelmed with intelligence, arriving faster than it can be processed. The scope has expanded, and the patch includes 14 ocean bases and 71 countries. Cryogenic capsules have been discovered in new Vatican tunnels. There are 6 tunnels connected to the Vatican, 4 of which have been neutralized. Starlink's new dark zone protocol is ducting underwater domes and cloaked vessels. The War Council includes Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, General Eric Smith, and civilian advisors connected to GISRA and financial recoveries. This is not over. Air, sea, land, deep ground, and orbit are experiencing increased intervention. More bases are mapped, and more secrets are coming to light. Nothing can stop it from happening, and it is far from complete. General Flynn declared that this is an existential battle for our republic. The fight is here, at home, against the infiltration of the dark side. General Flynn issued an emergency alert regarding the invasion of Venezuela, according to Ethan White of Gaystellar. Venezuela is no longer just a collapsed state, but a territory occupied by the enemy. The situation is not just a geopolitical maneuver, it is a full-throttle war preparation, and the battlefield, its southern border. Opinion. Puffness said, "This week we can assure you that there is a lot of debate going on about the dinar, the Zimbabwe, and all the currencies that some of you have been following. There is a lot of chatter, and some efforts are being made to move something forward in that all the delayed projects segment. Beyond that, we are seeing real energy shifts in money, and part of that has to do with the situation the banks are in. Many banks are out of control and have not yet failed. We say many, and we mean it. Many around the world are suffering at the hands of those who did mischief that put them in a difficult position. And from there, we won't see much positive movement until some of those other issues are addressed and resolved. Beyond that, we can tell you that the money has already been allocated, and the intention for this event to happen is still unclear at this time for those who have endured and know the story. We are doing everything we can from our perspective to ensure continued progress. Full thought summary. Rothschilds plead for exile instead of execution, according to Benjamin Fulford. As a sign that they know the end is near, the French branch of the Rothschild clan has proposed lifelong exile to the Kerguelen Islands instead of execution, according to French intelligence sources. They promise a peaceful transfer of power if granted. The islands are amongst the most isolated places on the planet. They are located near Antarctica and 5,300 kilometers from Madagascar, the nearest populated area. This offer comes as September approaches and mass demonstrations, general strikes, and elite arrests are expected. Canada is ground zero for the Davos Forum. It is becoming a testing ground for the control agenda. 1 in 20 deaths in Canada is the result of euthanasia. How long we will allow 100 families to control 8 billion people while we fight, they cut the cake and laugh at us. According to Benjamin Fulford, the biggest scam in the world is convincing everyone to work for 60 years straight, sacrificing their youth, their dreams, time with their loved ones, and their personal freedoms. A CIA remote viewing project described the Ark of the Covenant as a technological device capable of emitting dangerous levels of energy, evoking ancient tales of its lethal capabilities. They suggested it has been moved or was being protected by a group with advanced knowledge. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.